For a while, I had the original Insta360 1X. And now Insta360 offered me to take a closer look at the successor, the 1X2. Is the 1X2 something for you as the first 360 camera, or is it worth an upgrade if you already own the original 1X? I will answer that later in this video. Welcome to another video. I'm Henrik Olsen, and if you want to learn how to make better videos with your camera and drone in general and a little bit about 360 cameras, then consider subscribing to my weekly tips, tests and tutorials. For those of you that are new to 360 cameras, they are a pretty simple construction. It's basically a chassis that contains of a lens on each side. This is the same principle that more or less all the manufacturers are using. What makes this special is that these lenses are more than 180 degrees, so they shoot basically around the corner, and by combining that footage you get a complete 360 sphere around the camera. And when you are capturing a 360 video, you have a lot of options to play around with the footage afterward. There are normally not that many advanced features in the recording process. You can simply just start the camera and then worry about the footage afterward. And the reason you can do that is because you are capturing the whole world around the camera. Then you don't need to worry if you are filming in this or this direction. The technology has come very far, and the Insta 1X2 is a perfect example of that, which you will see in this video. I had the original 1X that I bought when it originally came out because I really liked the shape of this rectangular shape with the lenses on top of it. So I thought I wanted to go for a camera like this. Using it on a regular basis, it revealed that it had some basic flaws that seems to be addressed in the X2. Let's take a closer look. One of the things that were criticized was the battery size, and Insta360 has addressed that by throwing in quite a larger battery with 30% more capacity. This will give you 80 to 90 minutes continuous recording. Also, they have decided to move the location of the SD card that is now located inside the battery compartment. That would mean that you will have to remove the battery to access the SD card. One thing that made the original camera really hard to use was this LCD screen in the front that was very hard to see. That has been addressed with this very bright LCD screen that is very easy to see in bright sunlight. Another big advantage with this one is that you can actually see what the camera is recording, something you couldn't do with the previous screen. So I can just float around with it like this and see what the camera is actually seeing. The LCD screen at the same time also acts as a navigation menu that is very easy to somehow navigate all the operations of the camera. You simply just slide from the sides. Everything is located in a very logical position. So if you want to switch between recording modes, you can simply do like that. If you want to access the base functionality of the camera here, some of the settings here, you can just do like that. If you want to switch the recording mode, you press this. You can switch between the three different resolutions, 5.7K, 4K and 3K. Right? So you can basically operate this camera, at least in the recording phase, 100% by only the use of the touchscreen. I do want to say, even though the touchscreen is very responsive, it is sometimes a little bit fiddly because of the round shape to hit the right buttons. But in most cases, it's not a big problem. They have made it waterproof, and it can survive down to 10 meters below the surface without any extra casing. You can go down to 45 meters if you add an additional protective case. As far as I know, it does not stitch very well when it goes underwater, but it's still pretty nice that you can take this camera outside in the rain and don't need to worry about it getting damaged. That was definitely not the case with the 1X. That was not waterproof at all. To make the product waterproof, you can see there's a nice rubber seal around the battery. So when I plug this in, you can see there's like an orange indicator that shows. That one needs to go away for the camera to be watertight. So keep an eye out for these two orange indicators, otherwise the camera will not survive underwater. The overall size compared to the previous one is that they are identical in the outer shape. The only difference is that the X2 is slightly thicker and has a more ruggedized surface. The camera also comes with a pouch where you can store the camera during transportation. So that's a nice one that will protect the camera against abuse. Because one thing that you need to realize with these 360 cameras is that you have a lens that is protruding the chassis, which means that it will be the lens that touches the table if you decided to put it flat down. It's not recommended under any circumstances to put down your camera directly on the desk, because scratching the lens will ruin your footage for sure. Even though the foam pouch is a pretty nice solution, Insta decided to send me something else that I find a lot more useful. And that is this rubber cap. That is a pretty nice solution that is very practical. You simply just pop that on top of the camera and both lenses are very nicely protected. It's very easy just to pop off this cap and then you're ready to record. I found this approach better than the foam pouch. The invisible stick, there's really no way around getting that as part of your kit. It's so cool what you can do with this, because the stick is going to be edited out of your final footage. There's no magic in this because most 360 cameras is capable of doing that. It's such a cool accessory, so there's really no way around it if you decide to purchase a camera like that, because you'll be able to do some footage that people can't believe how you pulled off. Like when I was flying over a crowd with my drone in a castle area riding my electric unicycle. Of course, I was not flying the drone over the crowd. I was simply just using the camera at the end of the selfie stick, riding the electric unicycle and modifying the footage in post so it looked like I was flying the drone. I got the new version of the invisible stick, and you can see the old one is slightly bigger, and you had to sort of turn these knobs to make this expand, where the new one is simply just pull it off like that, making it a lot easier to operate. But it also seems that at least this specific sample is a lower quality than the original one, because if I mount it here, you can already see it now. It does not make the camera sit straight on top of the stick. It's not a big deal, it's a 360 camera, so the footage will survive, but it still messes with my OCD that this is not aligning perfectly well. There are multiple purchase options from the Insta360 website, and what I got here was the Creator Kit. And that basically includes the camera by itself, and it includes this rubber cap that I just showed you. It includes the invisible selfie stick. It includes an Insta360 branded SD card of 64 GB that will get you started. It's a pretty smart move for them to include a SD card, because then you are basically ready to go when you get the kit. In case you want to check out the purchasing options by yourself, then there's a link in the description below. Also, charging the camera has been upgraded to USB-C from the previous micro USB. By the way, do you like my content? Then consider subscribing to my weekly tips, tests and tutorials. The camera specs same as in the previous model. It's supposed to offer some advantages, some better optimization of the footage and such, but the raw hardware specs are the same as the previous model. The camera is capable of recording 5.7K video through these two lenses located on each side of the body. It offers superior stabilization with something that Insta360 calls flow stabilization. And combining the sensor input from inside the camera with the fact that you're recording 360 video, make them pull off some stabilization that is pretty impressive. You also now have access to a feature that I've been liking with the GoPro Max and I've been using all the time, that's called horizon lock. And that'll basically lock the horizon of the camera regardless of the orientation. That's a very useful feature, especially when you're out riding unicycles or maybe mountain bikes or whatever you are up to, where you're moving a lot in the landscape. You also have the option to record 360 footage at lower resolutions but at a higher frame rate. In 4K you can go up to 50 frames per second, in 3K up to 100. You don't necessarily need to stick to 360 recordings. You can use this as a regular camera. You will simply switch it into something they call Steadicam mode. And that way you will decide to use either front lens or the back lens of the camera and simply record through that. With that option, you have access to 1080p up to 120 frames per second, and you can up the resolution to 1440, but then the resolution is capped at 50 frames per second. The horizon lock feature also applies to the Steadicam mode. Other really cool options offered with the camera is time shift and time lapse, and also a special mode that you can't generate with any other camera on the market called bullet time. Explaining the bullet time is simply mounting this on the tripod here and the camera in the end. and then extend it to the full width and simply just turn it around over your head. In that way you can create some pretty amazing clips that is not possible to do with any other type of camera. You can enhance your footage with the HDR option under difficult lighting situations, but it's not really recommended to use the HDR option when you're on the move, because a lot of stuff is going on in the engine room calculating these HDR frames. So for the footage to turn out well, you need to have the camera in a fixed position. It can shoot 18 megapixel 360 photos in both JPEG and RAW. It's furthermore equipped with a photo mode called Pure Shot, where it automatically captures 9 images and combines those into a single image with a wider dynamic range. You have a variety of shooting options in photo mode, including single shot, burst, interval, and HDR. Audio is supported by 4 microphones, one located on each side as well as one under each lens. Let me just replay an audio test. This is an audio test with the Insta360 One X, tested outside in the beautiful area of Frederiksborg Castlegard. It also offers a built-in wind reduction mode, but I'm not really sure how much that one is doing. This is our audio test. This is our audio test of the Insta1X2. If you want, you can use your 1X2 through the USB port as a webcam with your computer. That offers some pretty unique opportunities because you have 2 lenses on the camera. So you can put this in the middle of a table and then you can basically film yourself as well as the person that's sitting in front of you at the same time and broadcast these. That's a pretty nice option that I would definitely try out. Because I'm a drone channel, Insta360 decided to send me their drone bundle as well that will allow me to mount the camera directly onto my Mavic 2 Pro. It offers 2 mounting options, one where I could put it on top of the drone and one option that will allow me to hang it below the drone. We're definitely going to take that out for a test, but that will be in a different video, so make sure to subscribe to the channel so you don't miss out on that one. If you're not familiar with the Insta360 ecosystem, then let me just give you a brief introduction. The camera comes with a very nice app that will allow you to remote operate the camera as well as work with the footage. So let's just try and remote connect to the camera. The connection process, that is pretty straightforward. So let's jump in to the camera preview. You can see I can simply just move around here and see what's inside the room here. So I'm sitting over here with the computer editing stuff. So let's just keep it here. It's nicely organized. You can see you have a video section, you have a photo section, you have 2 live sections, one where you can reframe the footage yourself when you are broadcasting, or one that will allow the viewers to sort of pan around inside the footage. So there's these nice options for you to work around with. And if I simply just press record here, so the camera will start recording. And while it's recording, the preview is inactive. You have the buttons here that will allow you to switch between the 360 camera mode, the Steadicam camera mode, where you're only using one of the lenses to record. So if I want to swap around, see, you can do that. So then it switches between the front and the back lens of the camera. There's also an option to do a panorama. So you do like a nice panorama photo. And of course there are all the camera settings that you would expect to be able to adjust the exposure and white balance in your footage. So you can switch between auto manual, shutter priority, and something that's called exposure isolated. You can also mess around with the white balance in case that you're not satisfied with the auto selection. But for most cases with this type of camera, I found it useful to just keep the settings in auto and let the Insta360 One X2 do its thing, because there's simply a lot of stuff going on here, and there's a high probability that you will mess up the footage if you start putting those into manual. This is basically how you record your footage if you want to use the phone. But I do want to say it's a bit of a hassle pulling up the phone every time that you need to record. In most cases, the small LCD screen on the camera is plenty enough to secure the footage. One final detail, if you worry about the exposure level of your footage, you actually have access to a histogram. So you can see you get a histogram here that will allow you to see what's going on in the image and see if parts of it is overexposed. There's also the option to enable GPS coordinates in case you want to do that, in case you later want to see where your footage was actually recorded. There's really no surprises on these screens. It's well organized and it's easy to figure out. Where the magic happens is when you're starting to work with the footage under the Album tab. Let's just jump in there, Album. And in here you can see that this screen is also very nicely divided into sections. You can see what is locally stored on the phone. You can see what is located on the camera. Let's just take the short clip that we just recorded and download that to the phone. You see now it's loading it, and now it's actually running on the camera. So if I here in the menu scroll all the way to the right, there's a download option. So if I press that and go back here, you can see that the footage is downloading, and you have a nice progress bar here in the top that will show you how far it is. So now the clip is downloaded to the phone. So that's pretty easy and will allow you to work with the footage even though the camera is turned off. One of the really cool things about 360 cameras is that you can simply just press record and then forget about the camera. Because you're recording a 360 sphere, you can reframe the footage later into a normal video with the angles that you desire. So when you're on location, you don't need to worry, I need to film from this direction, I need to film from this direction. This can all be handled in post. The reframing is pretty smart. I can take this 360 clip that I just recorded and convert it into a 16:9 video that I can export to my camera roll and use it in one of my other projects. So the way that I do that is I simply choose the format here, choose the format 16:9, and then I have sort of the angle that I want. So let's just see. So now it's just playing here. And I can basically move it around and set it to the angle that I wanted. I can even make it turn the camera angles. So let's just go here and say like this. So I can move it like that. Say, okay, I want it to turn to this point like that. So when I play the footage, you can see that I will get a nice and soft pan inside the image. That's a super strong feature. What I can also do, I can add tracking to objects inside the footage. So if I go in here and let's say that I want to pick this guy that's walking there, I simply select deep track and then I highlight him and say start tracking. Then he will start to be tracked inside the footage. How cool is that? Let's just stop it here. So if we scroll back here and start the footage from the beginning here, so you can see. So now the camera automatically tracks him inside the footage. If you are into short clips that you can share on social media that really will draw attention, then Insta360 have included stories with some templates that will allow you to do something really cool and eye-catchy. So let's say that we want to do, see there's a lot of options here that you can choose from. One of my favorites is the clone trail. Every time you start a template inside the Shot Lab, you will get a small tutorial that will show you exactly how to shoot the footage. So that is pretty nice. So let's use this theme. And we are going to select the footage that we used before. Then we need to play the footage and point out the subject that we want to clone. When he's starting to appear, he's there. So we just point him in, yes, and then let it track automatically. So that's enough. Okay. And then I can press clone trail. It takes a little while for it to process. The top camera just died. Battery. Then you can just replay it and see that the guy has been cloned inside the footage. Let's export it so we can see it in full size. Simply press here in the corner, press direct export, and I can select to export the clip in 30 frames per second, 1080p, and up to 125 megabit per second. And then it's saving it directly to the camera roll. And the final result will look something like this. And as you can see, there's plenty of other stuff in here that you can use to modify your footage. So as you can see, these templates can offer a lot of fun, that you can just create some exciting and engaging clips for social media. I think those are a nice gimmick, and not all of them are working equally well, but I'm pretty sure you will get a lot of fun out of playing with these. There's a billion things that you could do with this app, and more than I will cover in this video. But in case you're interested in more information about the Insta360 One X2, then let me know in the comment below. Insta360 also offers you the option to edit your 360 footage on your desktop using the Studio app. With this option, you can do more or less the same editing that you can do with the mobile app. If you don't prefer to use the Studio app, Insta360 also offers the option for you to import your 360 footage and work with it directly inside Final Cut and Adobe Premiere. So that's a pretty nice option if you prefer that. Are you convinced to pick up one of these? The standalone price for the camera is $430 where the creator kit that I've been using here in this video, including the invisible stick, the tripod, the rubber cap, the camera itself, and a 64GB SD card is around $500. As far as I'm informed, Insta360 is right now running a campaign that will allow you to pick up one of these at a bargain. Purchase link in the description below. Insta360 One X2 is a great camera, no doubt about that. But some will say it does not offer enough advantages to justify an upgrade. But if this is your first 360 camera, you will get a lot of features and fun with this type of camera. Insta360 One X2 or any other 360 camera is not a point-and-shoot camera, and you will probably need to do something about the footage either on mobile or desktop if you want to incorporate the footage in one of your normal projects. There's one thing that you definitely need to be aware of. There is this extra step that you need to go through before you can use the footage. If you just want to play around and make short clips for social media, it's not a big hassle at all, and you can do that directly from the mobile app. And you need to be aware that the file size generated by the 5.7K footage are huge. But this is the penalty that you have to pay to have the freedom that this technology offers. And if you have plenty of space on your phone, this is normally not a problem. It's very liberating. You can just press record and then don't worry about the angles until later when you're working with the footage. It's like having your own camera crew in the pocket. I do want to mention that Insta360 have sent me the creator kit for me to take a closer look. And they did not influence this review or tell me what to say about the product. You know me well enough by now. If they put up terms like that, I would not have accepted it. I'll just be showing some of the features of this product, and it will be up to you to decide if you want to purchase it. I hope you liked this video. If you did, then feel free to give it a like. If you didn't like it, feel free to press the dislike button twice. Thank you for watching, and I'll be seeing you around.